Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Rotting in Bed podcast. I am sitting actually in the living room. I'm not in my bed. I'm sitting on the couch. It's very comfortable here. I was using a blanket, but it got kind of hot, so I took it off. But anyways, I wanted to revive this little podcast because I realized that sometimes I have things I want to say that might be better for long form versus short form. I think video editing for short form, video editing for YouTube videos isn't really short form, it is considered long form. But I think that trying to get my thoughts across with the camera on my face just make it really hard, and I have a hard time continuing to speak. And so I wanted to try doing this where there's no camera on my face, it's just me chatting, and you guys expect for it to be long and potentially not that interesting the whole time because it's just so long. Versus in like a YouTube video, I feel like I have to be interesting the whole time and I can't just ramble. Basically, I feel like podcasts are for rambling, and I can ramble. So, on today's episode, I wanted to talk about all kinds of things. One, I want to talk about my experience being 26 and underemployed and just kind of what it's taught me. So I would say the first thing I've learned from being 26 and underemployed is that our free time is so valuable and you can get so much done in it, and that we're not meant to work. As humans, we're not meant to spend 40 hours a week working. Ever since being underemployed, which means I work part-time, which is the part-time is probably like less than 20 hours a week if we're being realistic, I've gotten to delve into my hobbies, whether that be playing with clay or playing with making fake cakes and playing with polymer clay and air dry clay. And it's just been so wonderful to tap into that side of myself and put my listings up on Etsy. And I think about how whenever I have a day of work, like even at my part-time job, I come home and I'm too tired to really engage in even my hobbies, even though I didn't even work full time. And so I think it'd be nice if we all could live that way. And I think maybe we should all try to transition our lives to very like low cost, low spend lifestyles where we can all work part time and afford what we need in like a joint household. Not alone, because individually a part-time would never work, but maybe if you could have two people working part-time, you could put your monies together, scrap your coins and put them together, and maybe you can find enough money to afford your basic needs and your hobbies. I think that would be ideal, and I feel bad for my partner because she goes to work 40 hours a week, and I'm like, wow, she comes home and she's just so tired and irritable and hangry, and she doesn't get to spend her time just like enjoying herself like I do. So yeah, that's one thing I've learned is that our time is so valuable. I would say the second thing would be that we're not meant to work 40 hours a week. I think it's just way too much work and strain on our bodies and our minds. And I think that spending so many hours away from comfort is just not setting us up for success in life. Like it's setting us up to be depressed, to be anxious, to be very unhappy, especially because like at work you can't do certain things freely. Like you can't get a burst of energy and then run around the house freely. You can't fart freely, which that could be an issue with that could come into play with digestive issues. You can't sleep freely, and sometimes you just need a nap to get yourself through the day or to get a boost of energy again. And you can't just exercise when you want to exercise and play when you want to play. And I think all these things contribute to people being depressed and anxious at work. I know for me, I hate that I can't have like a blanket and some pillows at work. I hate that I have to hold in my farts. And I know holding in farts does not sound that serious, but when you have gastrointestinal issues, it really is serious. However, my therapist did tell me about this product called Shreddies, where it's an underwear that has a patch in it that is made out of charcoal, I think, or some sort of material where it neutralizes the odor. So you just fart in the charcoal spot of the underwear, and then the odor is neutralized. And so I've heard about those, and that could be a way to get through the workday in being able to fart, as long as you know how to silent fart. I know how to silent fart, so it's fine. And let me move on from talking about farting, because that's not what this is supposed to be about. But yeah, the 40-hour work week, it's so capitalistic. And I hate how we're all forced to participate in capitalism whether we want to or not because of the country we live in. And you don't choose what country you live in, you're just born into a country. But this is too hard on our bodies. It's wrecking our spirits, and there's no room for self. There's no room for self-actualization. There's no room for self-love in capitalism. I just got an email from the Association for Supply Chain Management. And so I'm learning that, like, during this time, it's so important to take it to really self-actualize and do what I want to do, because not everybody has this opportunity. Like, not everyone can afford to live life without a job, without working full time. And it's weird because I didn't put myself here on purpose. This is happening out of my control. But it is something that I can sustain because I have a partner who's making full-time money and making good full-time money at that. What else have I learned from being unemployed? I've learned that you can spend so much of your time just sleeping, and you really have to make a choice to do more than just sleep. And it gets hard to spend up all this time, and like a little bit of work is necessary. A little bit of work is nice to have. Either that or hobbies that you can get into for hours, which once your hobbies start turning into hour-long projects, it kind of is like a replacement for work. And so I do believe that we should still have some form of work, because it's nice to have your mind be challenged and stimulated in that way. And it's nice to have several hours to spend dedicated to something. And it makes you feel very like satisfied and accomplished. And it's good for your self-esteem. It's just too much of it turns into this miserable hellscape. And so I feel like I don't need all the free time that I have, and definitely more of it can be spent on just like working on things. And that is why I make YouTube videos, because editing takes hours. That's why I play with clay. It takes hours to finish what you're doing. So for me, those are like my replacements for not having actual work. I've learned that I really do have a comfort TV show, and that is Bob's Burgers. Oh my gosh, I watch Bob's Burgers like every single day, and it has like 13 seasons, so I never run out of episodes, and it's just crazy how comforting that show is to me. I love the fact that it's a family. I love the family dynamic. I love each of the characters. They all are like interesting and funny and have their own way of being. And that's hard to say for a TV show. Usually all the characters are not like A1 superstars, but all the Bob's Burgers characters are like great. Except for Teddy. I don't like Teddy. Teddy annoys me because he's the typical tropey, like, oh, let's make a character kind of incompetent and dumb, like Patrick from SpongeBob, and let's have him ruin things sometimes. And I've never liked characters like that. They stress me out. I don't understand why they're ruining everything all the time. I don't understand why we write someone so unrealistically dumb. So that's the only character in Bob's Burgers that I don't like. But I love how loving Linda is of her children, and like the show's pretty diverse in that like they let people be themselves, and they have people with different like situations going on. I think they have drag queens in the show. They have a kid with asthma. They have Tina, who's very like awkward in her prepubescent stage. They have Jean, who's very kind of fruity, and Linda, she's just living in her own little world. It's great. So that's the show that I watch like all the time. I really should be prioritizing watching anime during this time. I'm still trying to finish Naruto Shippuden. I know it's embarrassing that anime has been out for years, but I have taken forever to finish Shippuden. I don't know why. It's just anime, and watching anime is not as easy as it used to be when I was younger. It was like nothing when I was younger, but nowadays my relationship with it has changed some. So I really should be watching more Naruto to get through that series. But I have also decided I might try picking up reading manga again, because I miss reading manga. I've always enjoyed reading manga more than watching anime, because it's more at your own pace, and the art style is like more interesting to pay attention to, and just, I don't know, something feels very homey and cozy about reading the manga. But I will say that I've never read a shonen manga, because shonen usually has like these intricate fight scenes, and I feel like reading those would be difficult versus like reading a shoujo story, which is like it doesn't have fight scenes, it's more slice of life. And so it's easier to read and keep up with what's going on. So right now I am rereading my favorite manga ever, Skip Beat. I found it when I was like 13 or 14 or something like that in Barnes and Nobles. And it's sad because the love line, the whole point of the book, the whole point of the manga is not to be a love story, but of course there's a love story written into it. And it's a very sweet love story that I like a lot. That's a little bit spicy. But what I hate is that it's heterosexual. And I'm at a point in time where I'm dealing with where it's hard to like look at media that is too heterosexual leaning and not feel left out and feel like I'm not alone. I get very lonely looking at and absorbing in media that's very heterosexual because it makes me feel like love like this can't exist for someone like me and for people with my identity. And I know it's technically not true, but when you never see depictions of that in the media, it kind of like depresses you. It makes you sad. And so I'm struggling with reading that manga right now. We'll see how that goes. I still want to finish it because I never finished it because it's an unfinished manga. So the author hasn't finished it either. And I think at some point I remember the story writing getting kind of corny, where I was just like, come on, author, like, you're just trying too hard to elongate this. Go ahead and put the characters together now. Like, this is taking too long. So I'm not sure if this series is going to stay good forever, but I would say the first 27 chapters were really bangers. Like, they were really, really freaking good. And you can't take that away from the author. They did a good job with that. But back to what this podcast is about, I decided to just go off on a tangent and ramble because, this is my podcast. I can do what I want. And it's the whole point of podcasts is that you ramble sometimes about things that, whatever. But another thing I've learned from being underemployed is that a job is a job is a job. So at first I kept comparing and saying, oh, I have a job but not a real job whenever I worked, every time I worked part-time. But I'm really, every job is a job is a job. Like, it doesn't matter if it's an office job, doesn't matter if it's a warehouse job, doesn't matter if it's a restaurant job. If you're working, and it's a real job. The only thing that matters is like part-time and full-time. And I shouldn't undersell myself and tell myself, oh, I'm not working a real job, I'm not really challenging myself, and I'm not really doing anything each day just because I'm not working an office job. And like, I have working anxiety. And so I get anxious about my performance very easily and about how I'm doing and how well I'm picking up on new things. I get very anxious and can spiral about those things in the workplace. And initially getting part-time jobs I thought wouldn't help my work anxiety. Like the exposure therapy for work wouldn't work because it was part-time jobs, not office jobs. But in fact, it has helped my work anxiety. Having a place to show up and have certain responsibilities every day, like it has challenged me, and it has held me accountable to my reactions, and it has made me have to have plans for my anxiety of sometimes when to take medicine or certain breath work exercises to do or certain thoughts that I have to repeat to myself. I will say that like working part-time has been exposure therapy for work for me, and I think it will translate to an office job one day when I get one. And I just don't think anyone should undermine their work by saying like, oh, I'm just doing this, I'm just doing that. Like, just have respect for yourself and for the people in that field and who do that. Some people work that job like for the rest of their lives, you know what I mean? Like, what's a part-time temporary job for you might be someone's full-time livelihood. So it's just best to not undermine that. I finished recording the first half of this episode, but did not do the second half. And so for the second half, I wanted to delve into why exactly I am afraid of working. I feel like I've mentioned that I'm afraid of working many times throughout my videos, but I've never really deep dived or gone into like a real explanation about it. But basically, I've had work anxiety since I was 16, which is about the age that you start like working jobs. I think 15 or 16. No, 16. 16 is the age where basically you're able to get hired and work different jobs. And I've had work anxiety since then, and I'm 26 now. So that's 10 years of work anxiety I've had to deal with, and it has gotten better. And basically, I get anxious at work about my performance and about my ability to learn. And what sucks is that whenever you're anxious, it actually does make things like your performance and ability to learn worse. And so I have to try to figure out this balance between like allowing my anxious feelings to exist but not overwhelm me so that they don't actually impact my work. But sometimes it has impacted my work. Has it always gone noticed? No, but eventually in retrospect, I noticed that it affected my work. I noticed at least that it affected my work, even if no one else did. And this underlying anxiety is just that, like, I won't be good enough and that I don't know enough. It's kind of like a form of imposter syndrome where I'm just, like, not where everyone else is at. I just don't know what needs to be known, and I don't know how to do the things that I need to do. I don't know if this feeling will ever fully fade. I have faith that it will. But it's just something I have to work through every single time I go into work at any job, regardless of if it's part-time, full-time, an office job, a retail job, service job, doesn't matter. Every job makes me feel some type of way, at least a little bit. So it's very challenging to have to deal with that because we have to make money in this life, right? We have to support ourselves financially. So I can't run away from this anxiety. I just have to deal with it every day. And you know what's crazy? I've gotten to the point with the anxiety where I'm mentally now in a better place where like my thoughts about it aren't so bad, but sometimes my body still responds really horribly to it. So that's why I'm reliant on medication, because my body will still start to do things like get high and get shaky and get dizzy feeling, even though mentally in my head, I feel like I'm doing fine. My body's not doing fine. So I kind of have to like figure out which part of me is being attacked with anxiety and then try to resolve that in the moment. And sometimes I'm just not able to resolve it. Sometimes I just have to deal with the anxious feeling. Like, for example, yesterday I was at work at Benihana's. As you know, that's where my new place of work is. And I was feeling anxious about these reservations that were going to be coming in and how much space we had available. And I was feeling anxious about asking my manager questions too often, even though it's never wrong to ask your manager questions. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. Like, and it's only like my second week working there. But I was getting anxious and I could feel my body getting hot, and I kept drinking water, trying to cool down, trying to calm down. And eventually I calmed down, I think, because what calmed me down? That's the thing. Usually I have a particular thought in my head that's repeating itself, because I think it's like an OCD thing that's making my body have the visceral reaction and the anxious reaction. And I think whenever I resolve that thought, then my body calms down, or if I get distracted, or if I'm too tired to care anymore. So one of those three things happened. Either I was too tired to care anymore, I got distracted, or I had a combative thought that made the anxious thought go away. So one of those things happened, and then I felt better, and I was able to get through my shift feeling really chill, the rest of the shift actually. Feeling very chill. But every day when I go into work, I'm always going to have at least 1 to 2 hours of feeling anxious. Like, that's just me. That's just who I am with this anxiety disorder, with this OCD, with whatever this is that I have. And I don't know if that's relatable or not, but I feel like I never have heard anyone talk about having work anxiety. And so for these past 10 years, I have felt pretty like isolated in my anxiousness around work, because like no one has ever mentioned it before. Like, at most, there's been snippets here or there where I spoke to a coworker and they kind of revealed their fears around something. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. Like, I'm so glad you revealed that to me. Like, at least I know like you're afraid of messing up this part of this job too. So that's been nice. But overall, like, no one's really like gone there in conversation, and it's not normalized to talk about it. And because that's the thing, more people could be anxious about working than just me, but no one's discussing it. No one's saying how like the attitude of their boss really affects their ability to believe in themselves and the quality of their work in turn. It's a very lonely experience. And so I wanted to talk about this so that like other people could like hear this real life example and know that you can still like work jobs even though you have working anxiety. Because that's one thing. I always got a job. I always got some sort of job. Like since I was 16, I had gaps where I didn't work sometimes, but usually that wasn't of my choice, or one time it was of my choice, but I hated it. I hated not working because I hated not earning money. And so I have not been unemployed outside of my choice for a long time. Am I saying that correctly? I have, last time, it doesn't matter what I'm trying to say. But I haven't been unemployed by choice in a long time. And right now I am employed. I'm just underemployed, which I want to explain better. Underemployed means that you're just not working at the capacity you want to be working at. So that can mean you're looking for a full-time office job and you're working a part-time retail job. You're underemployed. I feel like earlier I mentioned underemployed, but I didn't really explain it. So that's the explanation, the better explanation for it. And being underemployed, it's better for me than being unemployed because at least I'm getting exposure therapy and getting to challenge my work anxiety every day, versus when I'm unemployed, all I can do is just think of scenarios and hope that I would respond accordingly and hope that I would be able to like get past my anxiety with them. But this way, I actually get the real life face-to-face interactions with people, the unpredictabilities of working in like food/retail, and the expectations of different bosses and their management styles and just different social dynamics that come up when you're in a new workplace. So yeah, I've always had a job, and despite my work anxiety, I've been able to have new jobs all the time. Like, and thing is, getting a new job is always the worst because like the first 2 weeks I'm my most anxious because I'm like, oh my God, I literally don't know how to do anything, like blah, like this is so confusing. But after those 2 weeks, I usually have a calm period for like 2 months, and then I get anxious again at the third month because I usually think I should be performing better than what I am. And so it comes in waves. It comes and goes in waves of feeling like, oh, I'm performing at the appropriate level for my expertise and time here, to I'm not performing at the appropriate level for my expertise and time here. I should be performing better. And all that's internally. No one externally says anything to me to make me think that I'm doing something wrong. This is just internal judgments, and it's very skewed. That's the thing. I know now that it's very skewed. It's very based in perfectionism. I don't have an accurate outlook on how I'm performing. Like, I cannot judge myself accurately. I'm very biased towards the negative. So I've come to understand that, and it has helped me not take my judgments so seriously and kind of just like roll it off my back sometimes. I will say there's some days, some shifts where I really am chilling out the whole time. I can roll off my back, like everything, like nothing bothers me. And I'm so grateful for those shifts. Like, those are awesome. Thank God. But I still will have to deal with those days where I'm worried about what my boss thinks of how I handled something, or if I mess something up for everybody, or I'll overthink just like certain decision-making moments. I overthink it. And as a host, you do have a little bit of power over decision making because you decide where people sit, which means you decide what server they get, and you decide where they're sitting in the restaurant. And it's not too hard, the system for figuring out where to put them. But because it's a hibachi restaurant, sometimes you can combine tables. So sometimes you have to make the choice whether to combine a table or not. And that can be a little dicey depending on whether or not the people are actually still sitting in the correct seats that you put them in, and if you'll have to ask them to move seats. And timing. Has it been 10 minutes since the first party sat? Okay, if it's been 10 minutes, then is it just enough time for me to sit the next party or not? And will the waiter have already started cleaning up the other extra dishes that they thought weren't needed because I hadn't sat the second party yet? So it's a little bit of rush like that. And especially if you have multiple people coming in at one time, it turns into a lot of like, oh my God, like where am I seating these people? And with which waiter? Because sometimes you have an open table, but it's with the wrong waiter. And so it's like, okay, the waiter can either physically just go to that table and have it be their table now, or I can wait to sit the party until the appropriate waiter's table becomes open. So those are things I have to go to my manager and ask him about. And sometimes I feel like I'm just asking too many questions. Even though I know they prefer us to ask questions and not mess it up versus not ask questions and mess it up. So it's just an internal thing. But yeah, I'm ready to try my hand. I don't know. I feel like I'm ready to try my hand at an office job again, because on one hand, I tell myself it's going to be the same anxiety experience as working right now in a non-office job is. And so I have nothing to worry about. Like it's not going to be any more than I can handle, because I'm already handling what I deal with now. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready for an office job. But then on the other hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if the office job, just because it's an office job, psychs me out more? Like, what if I get in my head about it more? What if I'm not ready and I just go into panic mode immediately from day one? And I really wouldn't like that. I don't want to be in panic mode immediately from day one. And speaking of jobs, right now, I'm waiting to hear back from this one job place. They interviewed me. I did 2 interviews. It actually went by very quickly. It was all within like 1.5 weeks. And I sent them a thank you email and never got a response, but I'm hoping to hear back from them about the position, see if they want me. And then today I just had an intake call with a recruiter for another job. It wasn't really an interview. It was just more like a phone call for him to make sure that I was okay with the job description and like the requirements and stuff like that. And he told me that the whole process will probably take 5 to 6 weeks. And I honestly was so happy that he was honest about it, because I'm so sick and tired of these recruiters being fake and being like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you in this time, in like a week, or you'll know by next week, and this is the next week, and it's never next week or the end of the week. They're always saying the end of the week. And I'm like, bro, stop lying. So he told me that I should hear a response about whether I get an interview within 2 days, but that the rest of the process will end up taking like 5 to 6 weeks of them doing like maybe a secondary interview, and then also interviewing the rest of their not clients, the rest of their potential hires, and giving you back results and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. Besides that, today I have off of work, so I'm just laying on the couch, not really doing anything. I spent the morning scrolling TikTok, which I do too often, but what else do I have to do? And I need to do my responsibilities around the house, which is unloading the dishwasher. I just don't feel like it. And also, I've been in a very like snacky mood today. Like I just wanted to keep eating. Oh yeah, and the water is turned off. And so I have to conserve what little water I have left in my water bottle, because there was like I don't know what kind of issue there was with the water pipes up at the front office, but it affected the whole freaking apartment complex. And so now we don't have water for however long. They didn't say. Ooh, is my phone battery almost dead? No, it's at 56%. It's fine. I got scared for a second. But yeah, thanks for tuning into this episode, and let me know what you want me to talk about more of, and I'll see you later. Bye.